The red sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the mining settlement as Kang Tae-wook wiped sweat from his forehead. He stood outside the main building, watching the strange ships land in the distance. The ships were huge and silver, nothing like the small transport vessels that brought humans to this world. "They're beautiful," said Park Ji-hoon, walking up beside his friend. "But I don't like this." Tae-wook nodded. For 3 months, the human colony had been peaceful. They mined rare metals from the mountains and built small homes in the valley. The work was hard, but they were free. Now these alien ships changed everything. "The meeting starts in 1 hour," said Lee Da-eun, joining them. She carried a tablet with notes about the aliens. "We know they call themselves Zephyrians. They have technology much better than ours." "What do they want?" asked Ji-hoon. "The same thing we want," Da-eun replied. "This planet." The 3 friends walked toward the meeting hall. Tae-wook felt nervous but tried not to show it. He was 28 years old and good with machines. Before coming to this world, he fixed engines on Earth's space stations. Now he helped build mining equipment and defended the colony when needed. The meeting hall was full of worried humans. Colony leader Kim Sang-ho stood at the front, talking to other leaders. Everyone spoke in quiet voices, but Tae-wook could feel the fear in the room. "They want to talk," Sang-ho announced. "The Zephyrians sent a message. They will send representatives to meet us." Outside, the ground shook as the alien ships came closer. Tae-wook looked through the window and saw the largest ship landing near the settlement. It was 10 times bigger than any human ship. Strange blue lights glowed along its sides. A door opened in the alien ship. Figures walked out, tall and graceful. Even from far away, Tae-wook could see they moved differently than humans. They seemed to float rather than walk. "Here they come," whispered Ji-hoon. The aliens approached the meeting hall. There were 5 of them wearing clothes that looked like metal but moved like cloth. Their skin was pale blue, and they had long silver hair. The one in front was female. Tae-wook could tell. She was beautiful in a strange way, with large golden eyes and sharp features. The aliens entered the hall. All the humans fell silent. The female alien looked around the room with cold eyes, as if she was studying insects. "I am Velnara of the House of Nexvar," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "I speak for the Zephyrian Empire." Colony leader Sang-ho stepped forward. "Welcome to our settlement. I am Kim Sang-ho, elected leader of the human colony." Velnara looked at him for a long moment. "You mistake this as your settlement. This world belongs to the Empire. You are trespassers. We filed claims with the Galactic Council," Sang-ho said. "This world was empty when we arrived." "Your council has no power here," Velnara replied. "The Empire claims all worlds in this sector. You must leave within 7 days." Murmurs of protest filled the hall. Tae-wook felt anger growing in his chest. These humans had worked hard to build their new home. Many had sold everything they owned to come here. They could not just leave. "We have families here," Sang-ho said. "Children. We have built homes and farms. Surely we can share this world. It is large enough for both our peoples." Velnara's golden eyes flashed. "Share? The Empire does not share with lesser beings." Lesser beings. The words slipped out of Tae-wook's mouth before he could stop them. All eyes turned to him. Velnara's gaze was like ice. She studied him from head to toe, taking in his work clothes and oil-stained hands. "You dare speak without permission?" she asked. Tae-wook felt his friends try to pull him back, but he stepped forward instead. "I speak because I am human, and humans speak when we have something to say." The other aliens behind Velnara moved closer, their hands near strange weapons on their belts, but Velnara raised a hand to stop them. "What is your name, human?" she asked. "Kang Tae-wook." "And what do you do here, Kang Tae-wook?" "I build things. I fix things. I help protect my people." Velnara smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "You build things. How quaint. In the Empire, we have machines that build better than any biological hand. We have artificial minds that solve problems faster than your best thinkers. Then why do you need our world? Taewook asked. If your empire is so great, why do you want a planet that lesser beings settled? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Velnara's golden eyes narrowed. Because it is our right. I am of the high caste, born to rule. You are a worker, born to serve. The natural order puts me above you. Natural order? Taewook laughed, surprising everyone, including himself. There's nothing natural about deciding who's better based on birth. You dare mock the caste system? Velnara's voice was dangerous now. I don't mock it, I just don't accept it. Taewook met her gaze without flinching. Where I come from, people earn their place through their actions, not their bloodline. For a moment, nobody spoke. Velnara stared at Taewook with an expression he could not read. Was it anger, surprise, something else? Finally, she spoke. You are beneath my caste, human. Your entire species crawls in the dirt while mine reaches for the stars. Yet you stand there as if you were my equal. Maybe that's because I am, Taewook said quietly. The silence stretched on. Then Velnara turned away from him, addressing Sangho again. 7 days, she repeated. Pack your belongings and leave. If you remain, the Empire will remove you by force. Wait, Taewook called out. What if there was another way? Velnara paused at the door. What other way could there be, little human? Your people must have laws, rules about settling disputes. We do, but they do not apply to you. All laws apply to everyone, or they're not really laws, Taewook said. Even an empire must follow its own rules. Velnara turned around slowly. For the first time, she looked truly interested in what he had to say. You speak of laws you do not understand, she said. Then teach me, Taewook replied. Unless you're afraid a lesser being might actually understand them. Something flickered in Velnara's golden eyes. Her companions looked shocked at Taewook's boldness. Even the humans in the room held their breath. Interesting, Velnara said finally. Very interesting indeed. She walked out of the hall without another word, her companions following. Through the windows, the humans watched the aliens return to their ship. Are you crazy? Jihoon whispered to Taewook. You just challenged their leader. No, Taewook said, watching the alien ship in the distance. I challenged their system, and I think she knows it. As the red sun set over the colony, Taewook wondered what he had started. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, he had looked a high caste alien in the eye and refused to bow down. For the first time since the ships arrived, he felt hope. 3 days passed after the meeting with Velnara. The human colony felt different now. People worked faster, spoke in whispers, and looked at the sky more often. The silver ships sat on the horizon like sleeping giants, reminding everyone that time was running out. Taewook could not sleep. Every night he lay in his small bed thinking about Velnara's words. You are beneath my caste, human. The words made him angry, but also curious. How could an entire civilization believe that some people were born better than others? On the 4th morning, Taewook walked to the colony's data center. The building was small but filled with computers and communication equipment. If he wanted to learn about Zephyrian laws, this was the best place to start. You're up early, said Lee Da-eun, who was already at her desk reading reports. I couldn't sleep, Taewook replied. I keep thinking about what that alien said, about their laws. Da-eun looked up from her tablet. I've been researching too. The Zephyrians are old, Taewook. Their civilization is thousands of years older than ours. What did you find? Not much. They keep their laws secret from other species. But I did find something interesting. She turned her tablet toward him. Look at this. The screen showed an old document written in strange symbols. Below it was a rough translation in Earth Standard. It's from a trade negotiation 50 years ago, Da-eun explained. The Zephyrians mentioned something called the Trial of Worth. It's supposed to be an ancient rite. Taewook leaned closer. What kind of rite? I'm not sure. The translation is incomplete. But it seems like a way for anyone to prove their value regardless of birth. Anyone? That's what it says. But Taewook, this is 50 years old. These laws might not exist anymore. Taewook stared at the screen. An idea was forming in his mind, dangerous but possible. Can you find more information about this trial? I can try. But why do you want to know? Before Taewook could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the colony. Both friends ran outside to see what was happening. In the distance, the Zephyrian ships were moving. But they were not leaving. Instead, they were flying toward the mining operation in the mountains. Bright beams of light shot down from the ships, hitting the human mining equipment. "They're destroying our machines," shouted Park Ji-hoon, running up to them. Colony leader Sang-ho's voice came over the communication system. "All citizens, stay calm. The aliens are attacking our mining equipment, but not our homes. Repeat, stay away from the mining areas." Taewook watched as years of human work disappeared in minutes. The mining machines that he had helped build and repair were turning into melted metal under the alien weapons. "They're not waiting 7 days," Da-eun said quietly. "No," Taewook agreed. "They're making sure we can't survive here without their permission." An hour later, the Zephyrian ships returned to their landing site. The humans gathered in the meeting hall again, but this time the mood was different. People were scared and angry. "They destroyed everything," said one of the miners. "All our equipment, all our work." "We can't mine without those machines," said another. "And we can't leave without money from the mining operation." Sang-ho tried to calm everyone down. "We'll figure something out. Maybe we can negotiate." "No." Taewook stood up. "No more negotiating. It's time to use their own laws against them." "What are you talking about?" Sang-ho asked. Taewook looked around the room at all the worried faces. Da-eun found something called the Trial of Worth. It's an ancient Zephyrian law that lets anyone prove their value. "Taewook," Da-eun whispered. "We don't know enough about it." "Then I'll learn," he replied. "Someone has to try." An older woman named Park Hae-jin shook her head. "You're just one man, Taewook. What can you do against their entire empire?" "I can show them that humans are not lesser beings," Taewook said. "I can prove that worth comes from actions, not blood." "And if you fail?" asked Ji-hoon. Taewook met his friend's eyes. "Then at least I tried." The debate continued for hours, but Taewook had made up his mind. That evening, he walked alone toward the Zephyrian ships. The alien guards saw him coming and raised their weapons. "I wish to speak with Velnara," Taewook called out. "Go away, human," one guard replied. "You are not welcome here." "I invoke the ancient right of trial of worth," Taewook said loudly. The guards looked at each other in surprise. They spoke in their own language for a moment, then one of them disappeared into the ship. Minutes passed. Then Velnara appeared. At the ship's entrance, she walked down to meet Taewook, her golden eyes curious. "You know of the Trial of Worth?" she asked. "I know enough," Taewook replied. "I know it's an ancient law that your people cannot ignore." Velnara circled around him slowly like a predator studying prey. "The trial has not been invoked for over 300 years. Most of my people think it's just a legend. But it's real. It is real." She stopped in front of him. "But do you understand what you're asking? The Trial of Worth consists of 3 tests: combat prowess, intellectual mastery, and spiritual strength. Many who attempt it die. What happens if I succeed?" Velnara's smile was cold. "If you succeed, you earn the right of the first night. You would have the honor of courting the highest-ranking noble present regardless of caste." Taewook felt his face grow hot. "I'm not doing this to court anyone." "No?" Velnara seemed amused. "Then why? To prove that humans deserve respect? To show that your caste system is wrong? Interesting. And if you fail?" "If I fail, then I accept whatever punishment you choose." Velnara stared at him for a long moment. "You would risk your life for these people?" "Yes. Even though you cannot win?" "We'll see about that." Something changed in Velnara's expression. The cold amusement faded, replaced by something that might have been respect. Very well, Kang Tae-wook. I will present your challenge to the High Council. She turned to go, then paused. You should know that my intended mate, Commander Thexalon, will not be pleased. He considers humans to be little more than animals. Then he'll learn something new, Tae-wook replied. Velnara laughed, a sound like silver bells. Perhaps he will. Perhaps we all will. As she walked back to her ship, Tae-wook wondered what he had just started. The trial of worth would be dangerous, maybe impossible. But for the first time since the aliens arrived, he had hope. Behind him, the lights of the human colony glowed in the darkness. His people were counting on him now. He would not let them down. The next morning, Velnara's ship sent a message to the colony. The High Council had accepted Tae-wook's challenge. The trial of worth would begin in 2 days. Tae-wook looked up at the alien ships and smiled. The real challenge was just beginning. The trial ground was a large circle of smooth stone, built in just 1 day by Zephyrian machines. It sat between the human colony and the alien ships, neutral ground for the ancient contest. Hundreds of Zephyrians had come to watch, their silver hair glinting in the morning sun. Tae-wook stood at the edge of the circle wearing simple human clothes and carrying no weapons. Across from him, Commander Thexalon prepared for battle. The alien warrior was huge, almost 8 feet tall, with muscles that rippled under his pale blue skin. His armor looked like it was made from liquid metal and strange weapons hung from his belt. Look at him, whispered Park Ji-hoon, who stood with the other humans behind the trial ground. He's twice your size. Size isn't everything, Tae-wook replied, but his voice was not as confident as his words. Velnara stood on a raised platform with other high-ranking Zephyrians. She wore a dress that seemed to be made of starlight, and a crown of silver sat on her head. Her golden eyes watched Tae-wook with an expression he could not read. Citizens of the Empire, she called out. Today we witness the trial of worth invoked by the human Kang Tae-wook. The first test is combat prowess. The challenger will face Commander Thexalon in ritual combat. Thexalon stepped into the circle. His voice boomed across the trial ground. I will make this quick, little human. You should have stayed in your colony. Maybe, Tae-wook said, walking into the circle. But I'm here now. An elderly Zephyrian raised his hand. The rules are simple. Fight until one surrenders or cannot continue. No weapons beyond what your body provides. Begin. Thexalon moved faster than Tae-wook expected. The huge alien rushed forward, his fists swinging like hammers. Tae-wook barely dodged the first punch, feeling the wind from it brush his face. The crowd of Zephyrians cheered as Thexalon pressed his attack. His long arms gave him reach that Tae-wook could not match. Every punch could break bones, every kick could end the fight. But Tae-wook had advantages too. He was smaller and faster. More importantly, he had learned to fight on Earth's streets before coming to space. He knew how to use an opponent's size against them. When Thexalon threw another massive punch, Tae-wook ducked under it and kicked the alien's knee. Thexalon stumbled but did not fall. He spun around with a backhand that would have knocked Tae-wook unconscious, but the human was already moving. Stand still and fight like a warrior, Thexalon roared. I am fighting like a warrior, Tae-wook replied, staying just out of reach. A smart warrior. The battle continued for long minutes. Thexalon grew frustrated as his powerful attacks hit nothing but air. Tae-wook was getting tired too, but he noticed something important. The alien's breathing was becoming heavy. For all his strength, Thexalon was not used to long fights. Tae-wook changed his strategy. Instead of just dodging, he started to attack. Quick jabs to pressure points, kicks to joints, strikes that did little damage but forced Thexalon to work harder. What are you doing? The alien commander gasped. Winning, Tae-wook said. Thexalon made one final desperate charge, but he was too tired to be careful. Tae-wook sidestepped and used the alien's own momentum against him. A simple trip sent the huge warrior crashing to the ground. Before Thexalon could get up, Tae-wook was on his back, arm wrapped around the alien's throat in a chokehold he had learned years ago. Surrender, Tae-wook whispered. For a moment, Thexalon struggled. Then his body went limp. Surrender. The trial ground fell silent. Even the Zephyrians seemed shocked that their champion had lost to a human. Velnara stood up slowly. The first trial goes to Kang Tai-wook. We will rest for 1 hour before the second test. As the crowds dispersed, Velnara approached Tai-wook. That was unexpected. Your commander is strong, Tai-wook said, breathing hard. But he fights angry. Angry fighters make mistakes. And you do not fight angry? Tai-wook looked at her carefully. I fight for something. That's different. An hour later, the trial ground was ready for the second test. This time, instead of combat, there were tables covered with complex machines and holographic displays. An old Zephyrian scientist explained the challenge. For centuries, our quantum engines have suffered from instability. The energy output fluctuates randomly, making our ships unreliable. Many great minds have tried to solve this problem. Today, you must find the solution. Tai-wook stared at the alien technology. The machines were far more advanced than anything humans had built. Strange symbols covered screens that showed energy patterns he did not understand. I don't suppose you have a manual? He asked. The scientist laughed coldly. If you cannot understand our technology, perhaps you should not have invoked the trial. Tai-wook walked around the machines, studying them from every angle. The other Zephyrians watched him with amusement. To them, this human was clearly out of his depth. But Tai-wook had spent years fixing machines. He knew that all technology, no matter how advanced, followed basic principles. Energy had to flow somewhere. Moving parts had to work together. And problems usually had simple causes. He found the first clue in the quantum containment field. The energy reading showed a pattern that reminded him of something from his engineering training. It looked like harmonic resonance, the same problem that sometimes affected human machines. The fluctuations, he said suddenly. They're not random. They follow a pattern. The Zephyrian scientist frowned. What pattern? Tai-wook pointed to the display. Look at the energy spikes. They happen every 3.7 seconds. That's not a flaw in the quantum field. That's interference from your own ship's systems. Impossible. Our ships are perfectly designed. Nothing is perfectly designed, Tai-wook replied. He started making adjustments to the machine, following his instincts about how energy should flow. You're running your quantum engines on the same frequency as your navigation systems. They're fighting each other. The scientist's eyes widened. But that would mean the solution is simple. Tai-wook made one final adjustment. Shift the quantum field frequency by just 0.3%. The machine hummed differently. The erratic energy patterns on the display smoothed out into steady, strong lines. By the ancestors, the scientist whispered. It works. The crowd of Zephyrians murmured in amazement. Velnara stared at the display, then at Tai-wook. How? She asked. Sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones, Tai-wook said. Your people are so advanced that you forgot to check the basics. Velnara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer. The second trial goes to Kang Tai-wook. As the crowds talked excitedly about the human who had solved their ancient problem, Tai-wook felt a strange sensation. He was not just proving himself anymore. He was changing how these aliens saw his entire species. 2 trials down, said Lee Da-yoon, who had been watching from the human section. 1 to go. Tai-wook nodded, but he was thinking about Velnara's expression when he solved the quantum engine problem. For the first time, she had looked at him not as a lesser being, but as an equal. The final trial would be tomorrow. And somehow, Tai-wook suspected it would be the hardest test of all. The third day of the trial brought strange weather to Kepler 442b. Dark clouds covered the red sun, and the wind carried whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. The Zephyrian said it was a sign that the ancestors were watching. In the center of the trial ground stood something that had not been there before. It was a tall crystal, black as space but filled with swirling lights. The artifact was ancient, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. The Heart of Truth, Velnara explained to the gathered crowds. It is the oldest relic of our people brought from our homeworld when we first reached the stars. Taewok stared at the crystal. Even standing 10 feet away, he could feel something strange about it. The air around it seemed thick, and whispers in languages he did not know filled his mind. "What does it do?" he asked. "It sees into the soul," replied the elderly Zephyrian priest, who would oversee this final trial. "The Heart of Truth shows who you really are, not who you pretend to be. Many who touch it go mad from what they discover about themselves." Commander Thexalon stood ready for his second chance. After losing the combat trial, he had demanded the right to attempt the spiritual test. His pride was wounded and anger burned in his eyes. "I will not be defeated by this creature again," he declared. "The heart will show everyone that I am worthy, and the human is not." The priest raised his hands. "The trial of spiritual strength is simple. Each contestant will touch the Heart of Truth. The artifact will judge the purity of your intentions and the strength of your spirit. Whoever the heart accepts will win the final trial." "What if it accepts neither of us?" Taewok asked. "Then you both fail, and the trial of worth ends in defeat for the challenger." Thexalon stepped forward first. "I go to claim what is mine by right of birth and strength." He placed his large blue hand on the crystal. Immediately, the Heart of Truth blazed with silver light. The whispers became screams, and Thexalon's face twisted in pain. The light showed images around the artifact, scenes from the commander's life. Taewok saw Thexalon as a young alien, bullying smaller members of his own species. He saw him rise through the ranks by stepping on others, taking credit for their work and using his position to hurt those who could not fight back. The images showed greed, cruelty, and a hunger for power that never ended. "No!" Thexalon screamed, trying to pull his hand away. "Those are lies." But the crystal held him. More images appeared, Thexalon forcing lower caste Zephyrians to work, without pay. Thexalon destroying evidence of his mistakes and blaming innocent people. Thexalon planning to use his marriage to Velnara to gain even more power. The Heart of Truth pulsed once, then went dark. Thexalon collapsed to the ground, his hand smoking from where he had touched the crystal. "The heart rejects Commander Thexalon," the priest announced. "His intentions are impure, his spirit corrupted by selfishness." Velnara stared at her intended mate with shock and disgust. "Is this true, Thexalon? Did you seek marriage with me only for power?" Thexalon could not meet her eyes. The truth was written on his face. Now it was Taewok's turn. He walked slowly toward the crystal, feeling the weight of every watching eye. Humans and Zephyrians alike held their breath. "Remember why you're doing this," whispered Park Ji-hoon from the crowd. Taewok nodded and placed his hand on the Heart of Truth. The world exploded into light and sensation. But this light was different, warm instead of burning, welcoming instead of painful. The whispers became a song that seemed familiar, though he had never heard it before. Images swirled around the crystal, but these showed different scenes. Taewok as a child, sharing his lunch with a hungry classmate. Taewok as a teenager, protecting smaller kids from bullies. Taewok working long hours to help his family pay for his education. The images continued. Taewok volunteering to come to Kepler 442b so that families with children could stay safely on Earth. Taewok working without sleep to fix mining equipment that other people depended on. Taewok standing up to Velnara not for his own glory, but to protect his people. But then the images changed, showing things that had never happened. The crystal was revealing deeper truths, hidden knowledge that made Taewok gasp. He saw ancient spaceships, different from both human and Zephyrian designs. He saw a planet with two races living together in peace. He saw wars that tore civilizations apart, and refugees fleeing to distant stars. "What is this?" Taewok whispered. The Heart of Truth pulsed, and suddenly he understood. The images were memories, not his memories, but memories stored in the crystal itself. Memories of the past that the Zephyrians had forgotten. More images flowed through his mind. He saw the ancestors of both humans and Zephyrians working together, building great cities among the stars. He saw how they had been one people once before pride and fear drove them apart. He saw how the Zephyrian caste system had been created not because some were born better, but to hide this shameful truth. "We're the same," Taewuk said in wonder. "Humans and Zephyrians. We came from the same source." The crystal blazed brighter, confirming his words. The song in his mind became louder, and he realized it was singing in languages that were both human and Zephyrian, or rather, in the language that had given birth to both. Around the trial ground, the watching Zephyrians began to murmur in confusion and fear. The images from the Heart of Truth were visible to everyone now, showing the hidden history that their leaders had worked to bury. "Impossible," said one of the high caste nobles. "We are the chosen ones, superior to all other races." "Are we?" Velnara asked quietly. She was staring at the images with tears in her golden eyes. "Or have we been living a lie for thousands of years?" The Heart of Truth pulsed one final time, then grew quiet. Taewuk pulled his hand away, feeling changed by what he had experienced. The elderly priest looked shaken. In all his years serving the artifact, he had never seen it reveal such things. "The heart accepts Kang Taewuk," he announced in a trembling voice. "His intentions are pure, his spirit strong. But more than that." He paused, looking around at the shocked faces. "The heart has shown us truth we had forgotten. Truth about ourselves." Velnara stepped down from her platform and walked toward Taewuk. Her beautiful face was full of confusion and something that might have been hope. "You have won the trial of worth," she said. "By ancient law, you have earned the right of the first night. You may claim your prize." Taewuk looked at her, then at the crowds of humans and Zephyrians watching. He thought about everything the Heart of Truth had shown him. The hidden history, the forgotten connections, the lies that had kept two peoples apart. "I renounce the right of the first night," he said clearly. Gasps echoed across the trial ground. Even Velnara looked shocked. "You, what?" "I renounce it," Taewuk repeated. "The right to claim someone as a prize is wrong. It belongs to the old ways, the false ways that have kept our peoples divided." He stepped closer to Velnara, speaking, so only she could hear. "If you want to be with me, it should be your choice. Not because of some ancient law, not because I won a contest, but because you choose it freely." Velnara stared at him, her golden eyes wide with surprise and something deeper. "You would give up your prize? It was never a prize to begin with," Taewuk said. "You're not a thing to be won. You're a person who deserves to make her own choices." For the first time since he had met her, Velnara smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. "Then I choose," she said. The silence that followed Velnara's words stretched across the trial ground like a held breath. Then chaos erupted. "This is madness," shouted High Caste Lord Nexavar, Velnara's father, as he stormed down from the viewing platform. "You cannot choose this creature. The bloodlines must remain pure." Other High Caste Zephyrians agreed loudly. They had seen the visions from the Heart of Truth, but many refused to accept what they meant. "The artifact lies," declared another noble. "Our ancestors would never have mixed with lesser beings." But not all Zephyrians felt the same way. Many of the lower caste workers had watched the trial with growing wonder. For the first time, they had seen one of their high-born leaders proven wrong. They had seen a supposedly inferior being show more honor than their greatest warrior. "The human speaks truth," said an old Zephyrian engineer. "I have seen the same energy patterns he described. We have been too proud to admit our mistakes." "And I have read the old texts," added a young Zephyrian scientist. "Before the caste system, our people did work with others as equals." The crowd divided into two groups. The high caste nobles stood together, angry and fearful. The workers and lower caste citizens gathered around the humans, curious and hopeful. Velnara looked at her father with new eyes. "All my life you taught me that I was born to rule others, that my blood made me special. But if the Heart of Truth shows that humans and Zephyrians are cousins, what does that make your teachings?" "Lies," Nexavar said coldly. "Pretty lies to keep us from the hard truth. Some are born to lead, others to follow. That is the natural order. No, Taewook said, stepping forward. That's the artificial order. One that someone created to keep power for themselves. Commander Thexalon, still weak from his experience with the crystal, struggled to his feet. Even if the visions are true, it changes nothing. The Empire is strong because of the caste system. Without it, we would fall into chaos. Would we? Asked Velnara. She looked around at the mixed crowd of humans and Zephyrians talking together. I see cooperation, not chaos. Li Daun stepped forward from the human group. On Earth, we learned that diversity makes us stronger. When people work together freely, they accomplish more than when they're forced to obey. Pretty words, sneered Nexvar. But humans have never built an empire like ours. That's true, Taewook admitted. But maybe that's because we were too busy helping each other instead of conquering each other. Park Ji-hoon nodded. Humans fight sometimes, but we also forgive. We make mistakes, but we learn from them. We're not perfect, but we try to be better. An unexpected voice joined the conversation. Perhaps it is time we tried to be better too. Everyone turned to see an ancient Zephyrian walking slowly toward them. She was older than anyone Taewook had ever seen, her silver hair white with age, her golden eyes dim but wise. Elder Zixandra, Velnara whispered with respect. I am old enough to remember the stories my grandmother told, the elder said. Stories of the time before the castes when our people traveled with many others among the stars. I thought they were just tales for children, but the heart of truth has shown me they were memories. She looked at Taewook with kindness. Young human, you have done something remarkable. You have reminded us who we used to be. What do you mean? Asked Taewook. The trial of worth was not created to prove superiority, Elder Zixandra explained. It was created to prove equality. In the old days, when someone was judged unfairly because of their birth, they could invoke the trial to show their true worth. Then why hasn't it been used? Velnara asked. Because the high castes made sure no one remembered it existed, the elder replied sadly. But they could not destroy it completely. Some laws are too ancient and sacred to erase. Nexvar's face grew red with anger. Enough of this. Guards, arrest the human for disrupting the order. But when he looked around for support, many of the Zephyrian guards were talking quietly with human colonists. They had heard the elder's words and seen the truth in the crystal. Some were already questioning everything they had been taught. Father, Velnara said firmly, I will not allow you to hurt these people. You forget yourself, daughter. You are promised to Commander Thexalon. I am promised to no one, Velnara replied. The heart of truth showed us his true nature. Our engagement is broken. Thexalon snarled and reached for his weapon but found himself surrounded by both humans and lower caste Zephyrians. His own soldiers looked uncertain, no longer sure who they should obey. This is revolution, Nexvar declared. No, said Elder Zixandra calmly. This is evolution. Change is the only constant in the universe. Those who refuse to change become extinct. Over the following days, the changes came quickly. Many Zephyrians chose to stay and work with the humans as equals. Others returned to their ships and left, for different worlds, unable to accept the new reality. Velnara surprised everyone by giving up her noble title. I want to learn what it means to earn my place through my actions, she told Taewook as they walked through the growing settlement. Are you sure? He asked. You're giving up a lot. I'm gaining more than I'm losing, she replied. For the first time in my life, I get to choose my own path. The human and Zephyrian engineers worked together to rebuild the mining equipment that had been destroyed. With both technologies combined, they created machines that were better than either species had built alone. Commander Thexalon and Lord Nexvar eventually left with the ships that refused to accept change. But many Zephyrians stayed, eager to experience life without the restrictions of the caste system. 6 months later, Taewook stood on a hill overlooking the settlement. What had once been a small human mining colony was now a bustling city where 2 species lived and worked together. Children of both races played together in the streets. Human and Zephyrian scientists shared laboratories. Artists from both cultures created new forms of beauty that neither could have imagined alone. "Regrets?" asked Velnara, joining him on the hill. "None," Taewuk replied. "Though I never expected, challenging your caste system would lead to all this. The best changes are often unexpected," she said, taking his hand. "My people have a saying, the flower that blooms in winter is stronger than the one that blooms in spring. What does that mean? It means that things which grow, despite difficult conditions, are more beautiful and more lasting than things that have an easy path." Taewuk smiled. "I like that saying." They watched the sun set over their shared world, painting the sky in colors that reminded them both of home. In the distance, human and Zephyrian families were having dinner together, sharing food and stories. "So what happens now?" Velnara asked. "Now we build something new," Taewuk said. "Not a human world or a Zephyrian world, but our world. A place where anyone can prove their worth through their choices, not their birth." "And us?" she asked. Quietly, Taewuk turned to face her, seeing the woman who had risked everything to choose freedom over tradition. "We take it one day at a time," he said. "No ancient laws, no predetermined destinies. Just two people choosing to build a life together." Velnara smiled, her golden eyes bright with happiness and hope. "I choose that too," she said. As the stars came out over Kepler 442b, the lights of the settlement below twinkled like earthbound constellations. Humans and Zephyrians worked side by side, proving that worth was not determined by blood or birth, but by the courage to stand up for what was right. The caste system was broken, but something better had taken its place. A future built on choice, cooperation, and the simple truth that all beings deserved respect. In the end, Taewuk had won more than a trial. He had won the chance to show the universe that humanity's greatest strength was not in dominating others, but in lifting them.